Hey folks, I'm Laura from Cherubs Chalks Interiors. Welcome to my channel and to my latest furniture makeover tutorial. Follow along for a step-by-step guide on how we created this rustic farmhouse look. I'm here today to show you my latest project, which is this solid pine sideboard. A lovely sturdy piece which is looking a little worn and dated with that orange waxed finish. I'm going to give it a gorgeous update with a rustic farmhouse makeover. So the first step with waxed pine furniture is always to remove the wax. I'm using a carbide scraper, which I find by far the easiest method in removing wax. These can also be used to remove paint or varnish. Always work in the direction of the grain to avoid damaging the wood. This is knotty pine, so the knots are going to need to be sealed. I'm using Colron's knotting solution, and I'll make sure that I've treated each individual knot to make sure that there's no bleed through when I start to paint. So now it's time to apply my base coat. I've chosen Sandbar, which is a gorgeous neutral, and I'm going to apply this all over using a premium chip brush. Once I've applied 2 coats of sandbar and left this to dry, it's time to start the next step. So I'm going to be using a wash of 2 different greens from the chalk mineral paint line. I've got some weeping willow and some Spanish moss, and I'm going to dilute this by mixing a 50-50 mix of paint with water for both colours. Of course, there is no set ratio when creating a colour wash, it just depends how translucent you want this to be. Obviously, the more water you use, the more translucent the colour wash will be. I want mine to be fairly runny but still achieve a certain amount of coverage. That's why I've gone with a 50-50 mix. You'll need to mix this up really well and then keep mixing throughout use, otherwise the heavy paint will sink to the bottom. So now I am starting with my weeping willow mix. I'm going to work in sections so that it doesn't dry too quickly. And I'm going to cover the entire first section with my weeping willow colour wash. Once I've got that on and it's still wet, I'm going to randomly apply some Spanish moss on top. I know this looks a bit crazy and messy, but bear with me, it will all come together soon. So now I've got a rag and I'm just going to blend in the 2 greens by dabbing at the paint. This will remove any excess moisture and blend the 2 colours together. This can always look quite messy on the first coat, but as you build the layers, and I tend to do between 2 to 3 layers with a colour wash, depending on the coverage that I'm looking for, the overall mottled blended effect will start to take shape. I'll show you my technique again on the drawer fronts. With this technique, I often find it best to just start playing with the colours and have fun with it. Just keep layering up the colours until you get the effect that you want. I have chosen 2 greens which are obviously quite similar, so I'm just looking for a subtle mottled effect, but of course you can do this with really variating colours if you're looking for something a bit more bold. Once I've finished applying the paint and I've left it to dry, I'm going to add a little fun detail with the Cozy Sweater stencil. I'm going to be using Sandbar again with my best dang brush, and I'm going to be applying this stencil on all of the drawer fronts. As I always say, when stenciling, less is more, so as you can see I have a rag which I'm wiping off the excess paint. I just want a tiny amount on the brush. I'm going to be using a stippling technique to apply this paint to the stencil, so this is basically just dabbing the brush up and down on top of the stencil. Now I'm looking for quite a rustic finish, so I'm not looking for full coverage over the entire piece, so I will be applying the paint a little bit thicker in some areas than others to give it an authentic worn effect. To carry on with the rustic vibe, I'm going to distress all over using a 120 grit sandpaper. I'm wanting to take some areas back to the layers underneath so that you can see the sandbar in some areas, and other areas I want you to be able to see the wood peeking through. Now it's time to seal the paintwork. I'm going to use Best Dang Wax in Clear all over the entire sideboard to seal in and protect this paintwork for many years to come. I apply this with a La Petite brush and then wipe off the excess with a rag. Now to add some extra character and dimension, I'm going to be applying some brown Bestang wax to the edges and details of the piece. I build this up in all of the areas that I want it, and then I buff off the excess and blend in using a rag. Then it's time to attach all of the new hardware, and she is complete. And here is a close-up where you can see all of the different layers peeking through, from the base coat, which is that neutral drop cloth, to the different layers of the colour washed greens. We really appreciate you taking the time to watch this tutorial, and we hope that it has been inspiring and informative for you. If you have any questions or would like to see more of our work, feel free to go and join us on all of the social media platforms at Cherubs Chalks Interiors. You can also leave a comment and subscribe here on our channel for more videos like this one. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again next time.